On May 13th, Wizards made their banned and restricted announcement, announcing that in Pauper, all the glitters was banned, as well as Legacy and Vintage seeing a ban of attractions and sticker cards. The main culprit here was the Mind Goblin, as you can see from the Pleasant Kenobi video thumbnail, where he discusses the implications of these tournament bans. I myself am not deep into Legacy or Vintage or Pauper, so I can't speak too deeply on these topics, but they go into detail here on the MTG Goldfish podcast. They talk about when Rule Zero fails at a standard tournament. This was a pretty interesting episode. I enjoyed it. Tangentially, though, there were discussions on Twitter about Rule Zero and how unsets should be allowed in Commander, which I happen to agree with, actually. I might be having like a reputation of like ban this, ban that, ban everything, but I actually want to see unsets unbanned in Commander. So as we can see here, these cards here, I would unban many of them, maybe not every single one, but I think it would be a signal that Commander is a casual format if we unban these, because what happens here is you have cards that already exist in Magic. Goblin Game, Scrambleverse. There's a whole bunch of other ones. There's a Draft Sim article that goes into what are like the weird cards in Magic. You have Asmo, Koldakar, this card here. You got weird cards like this. You got tons of weird cards in Magic already, right? And so you have these unsets that I feel could see play potentially, with the exception of, I mean, I don't know, like there's Dexterity cards that ask you to flip, like Chaos Confetti, I believe is a card here. Ashnod's Coupon, target player gets you target drink. This is a meme. I don't know how well that would work in the rules. As you can see here, I think, Jim LePage comments that the biggest obstacle with contraptions and host augment is that they're not actually supported, and he's talking about other unset mechanics, and these mechanics here are actually less egregious than Ashnod's Coupon. But there's also Chaos Confetti and like Big Furry Monster. These, like, Big Furry Monster could be legal. This is basically just a transform card, like the Hanover Battlement style card. As you can see here, there's Blacker Lotus. People would love to play that. Blurry Beeble. This is a silly one here. I almost thought about putting it in my queue, but it can only be blocked if defending player is wearing glasses as it was cast. So you have like these qualitative rules text things on these cards that you couldn't really do in a game like Booster Tutor. This Booster Tutor I think actually could be pretty fun in a Commander game, right? If you actually just crack open a booster pack and just add a card to your hand, that's hilarious. Like, that creates stories. But yeah, so on Twitter here, going back to the Rule Zero discussion, Saffron Olive says that he's not a fan of the reasoning that most sets have a mechanic that don't work under existing rules. And if you need a way to print cards in a Commander without messing up other formats, just make one. You have that power, Wizards. And so he highlights this here. And so, there's a whole thread on here on Twitter. I would just suggest following Saffron Olive on Twitter and Mark Rosewater as well. Mark Rosewater comments that the number one complaint he gets from unsets or uncards was their group would not let them play them. For many groups, Rule Zero is not a practical thing. This is... I've run into this a little bit. Like, I accidentally played an Acorn card and Park Map and like the big top in one of my decks one time because I'm like, oh, Acorn, that means legal, right? No, it actually means you can't play it in Commander. And so, like, I see how this was an issue. Acorn stamp is a whole separate thing. So Wizards in Infinity thought that the Acorn stamp would signify that these cards were not intended to be Commander playable, even though it's black bordered, even though these cards, most of them kind of work within the rules of Commander. I mean, they're kind of silly. Big top, add 1 mana of any color that appears on your top, which is like your shirt, basically. And so, Gray Merchant of Alphabet, you choose a letter for each creature you control that has the chosen letter, you gain 1 life. And, Nearby Planet, which actually got a a pseudo reprint with the new one of those new Urza's planets from the Modern Horizons 3 set. I forget the name, but there's tons of cards here. They deal with like affinity for clowns, pyroclasm. You deal pi damage. Like these are just silly cards. Actually, trigger happy. I'm going to mention this card here is in my EDH Commander cube, and so like I think this card, there's probably some sort of corner case rule scenario that I'm not thinking of where it doesn't quite work within the rules exactly, but this is a fun card. It's just a 2-mana instant that you choose a triggered ability of target permanent. It triggers, you control that ability. That's really cool to play. Like if somebody has an Archon of Cruelty in play or something, you just trigger their Archon, or you trigger some crazy card, And so there's cards like these that I really enjoy. I think especially Unfinity had a lot of cards that were fun, and maybe not quite as much Dexterity, which you had a lot of Dexterity with the old Unsets. There's there's Chaos Confetti. If this will load here, so yeah, Chaos Confetti. It's silver bordered from Unglued. It's paying homage to Chaos Orb, I believe, which is almost the same card. You flip it onto the playing area and it destroys permanents that it lands on. Chaos Confetti, you tear it up and throw them onto the playing area. So these cards, I mean, Chaos Orb, I think, could be legal in Commander. It's just a Dexterity card, so they want to probably avoid that. I don't remember the reasoning for their actual banning of it, but yeah. So there's tons of Twitter threads that went off from this, and Saffron Olive also commented that he is very much in the camp that Commander has outgrown Rule 0. It's great for individual playgroups, but Commander is not just about playgroups anymore. Now he thinks it's mostly about people in power, used by people in power to avoid having to make potentially unpopular decisions and manage the format. And that's always the meme. The meme is that our next announcement is no changes. We've done nothing. We tried nothing, and we're all out of ideas. That's kind of the meme of the rules committee and the CAG, and it's like they don't want to ban or unban cards. I get that they want a stable format, but I also think that we need to make sure that we are keeping the format feeling alive. It's got to feel like they're paying attention to the zeitgeist and what people are feeling in the format. So, yeah, I was looking up earlier cards that had flip, because there's Goblin Game where you hide cards, and then there's Chaos Confetti where you flip the card physically, but there weren't a lot of cards that were legal in Commander that had flip on them. I was just looking for other examples of super weird cards in Commander, but I mean there's tons of stuff like that. I mean really any transform card, any card that changes in some way, dual faced cards, MDFCs, those are really weird cards, and they already exist. And so yeah, going back to these uncards here, a lot of the commanders could be, so sorting by the commanders on Unfinity, I think a lot of these would actually be fine. Baron von Count is a really fun idea for a commander. It's it enters ETB with Doom counters, and when the Doom counter moves from 1, you destroy target player and put it back to 5. So he counts down to 1, and he destroys a player. I think that's hilarious. That makes stories. Griselda, I actually built a Griselda deck when this came out. I Rule 0'd it with my playgroup. She's actually not that good, really, because it's 5 mana to cast and 5 to activate. And what she does is she just combines creatures from graveyards onto the battlefield under your control. And actually, sidebar, I'll make another video about this, but in my Commander Cube, I have a similar card to Griselda, but I costed it a little bit cheaper. And so I think this design space is really cool, just combining creatures. Essentially, she mutates them in a way, sort of. And I think that's really cool. So there's a ton of stuff, Johnny Combo Player. I think there's one that they banned right away. I think it was the black one, Spike Tournament Grinder. Yeah, they banned this right away. Even when they were doing the test pilot play with the Unfinity, because when that came out, all the cards were legal for a couple of months just to try it out. So yeah, going back to Twitter, there's a lot of Rule 0 discussion. Let's see, Jim LePage comments that the quarterly update is on July 29th, coinciding with the release of Bloomborough. and he doesn't want them to think that they're going to ban attractions or stickers in Commander. They're kind of, I mean, in a way, attractions and stickers are like Rule 0, not banned, but just kind of shunned in Commander because they take so much time to trigger and to activate. So here we go, going down here. I think the attractions are right here. Yeah, so attractions, you get a bunch of stickers, and you have to have like an attraction deck. I don't remember the exact rules, but you have like random attraction deck, and these trigger when you do certain things. And I don't even remember the rules for these, but they're very fiddly. They're like planeswalkers where like you're activating a bunch of triggers every turn, and you're taking like a 20-minute turn, and it just gets crazy. And so yeah, you visit attractions and you get prizes, and there's a whole rule set to that. But yeah, I think they'd be fine in Commander. I think almost all of them would be fine. So Jim LePage comments again in the Twitter post about the biggest obstacle is that they're not supported by the comprehensive rules. I mentioned that earlier. And so yeah, he also mentions that this is actually pretty big. So one commenter says that now there can be an official uncard ban list that isn't just everything without acorns. And Jim replies that they have been looking at this, and this is a when, not an if. So they are looking to have an official uncard ban list of some sort. I don't know exactly what that means. I don't think they're going to unban every single uncard like I want. I want them to do that because that'd be kind of funny. But I mean, it falls in line with Reddit and Twitter and everybody commenting that they just want every card unbanned. There's only like 40 banned cards anyway, so why not just unban? Except for this, don't unban Crewfix. Whoever did this, don't put that evil on me. Don't do that. But yeah, somebody also predicts the meme of no bans or unbans. Vague talk of we're keeping an eye on it. The format's in a healthy place right now. We're just gonna Rule 0. That's really funny. Most Dangerous Gamer, people played this card. There's attractions, and you're taking just tons and tons of time on your turns. Shivam had a very lengthy post, which I won't read here because it would take a long time. He had, oh my goodness, he had like 24 posts about the ideology of Rule 0. This could be like its own video almost. But Shivam says that he's acting like, people are acting like Rule 0 is some kind of weird ideology forcing you to play with bumper guards while bowling and giving everyone a participation trophy. And so you act like Rule 0 is the only thing stopping you from beating each other to death with hammers like some Lord of the Flies nonsense. He goes on and on. I would just recommend, I'm going to link this in the video description, and we can, you can click on it there. So he talks basically about people bringing mismatched deck power levels, and that he thinks that Rule 0 is how you read the room, and it's basically just communicating and socializing. And this also leads into the Rachel Agnes tweet, which this was from 2020, and people were retweeting it. I'm like, oh, I didn't see this one before. But she says that MTG guys have zero excuse for not having communication skills because I've seen you all announce every single game action phase and trigger like your life depended on it. Now, this might be true in Tournament Magic, and I think this is an interesting post because in Tournament Magic, you do want to do that. It benefits you to do that. In Commander and multiplayer settings, players are often trying to cover their eyes and hide under the radar, and like unintentionally, I've seen this with everybody. Like every group or table that I've sat down at has had at least one or multiple players, including myself, who either forget or just don't announce card names, triggers, what they're doing, and it gets hard to follow. And so this idea in theory makes sense. I mean, yeah, ideally we would all socialize and be perfectly, in line and on the same board or on board and everything. And it's like, I don't think that's the reality though, So Rule 0, it's awkward too. Like, cause if you go to a big event like a Magic Fest and you sit down at one of the tables, you get assigned to whatever. I did that in Magic Minneapolis a while back. And so I did that and actually had some good experiences. I was lucky to find some players who were like-minded and everything, and we kind of just naturally played some fun games, and that was fortunate. But I can see it going the other way too, where people are afraid to discuss, and like this. I get it though, because in Tournament Magic, you are you are rewarded for being like precise and cutthroat, and players feel that they're lacking that lately with like the Pro Tour, and like the methods to get to the Pro Tour have dwindled lately, especially since the pandemic, and especially since they had I'm way out of the loop on this, but they had like tournaments. They had a tournament series even before the pandemic that was very flawed, and people didn't like the rules. People didn't like how it was handled. And so with tournaments dwindling and Commander just starting to take everything over, you get these competitive players who don't have an outlet for being competitive except for CEDH. But if there's not enough CEDH players in a given location at your LGS or wherever, then they might just whip out a deck that's too strong, or they didn't bring enough decks that are casual, or they just want to be cutthroat and win. And like, I think it would be great if Tournament Magic made a big comeback and people were playing tons of Modern, tons of Standard, whatever formats are constructed, even Limited. And so they could get that out of their system and then just go back to having Commander be like super casual. And then I think by unbanning these silver bordered and uncards, it would be a signpost. The Rules Committee likes the signpost. It would be a signpost that this is the type of format that we are trying to cultivate. And so I disagree with this take by Rachel Agnes, but she does a good job posting on Twitter. So I mean, all of these people I think are worth following if you're on Twitter, which Twitter's a whole other thing, but I cultivate mine to not show me like all the other bad stuff on Twitter, but even then. So yeah, Pleasant Kenobi says that the Rule Zero conversation exists in large part, but not entirely exclusively, because a ban list for Commander is never going to be all-encompassing. The game is too large, casual format too wide and encompassing, and Commander only works because we agree to make it work. Suspended belief, powered by the magic of collective understanding. I mean, there's truth to this. People don't want to be ostracized. People want to find games and play and have fun. And if you're overly cutthroat, it's going to be tough to find games. And so I agree to a certain extent. It's a social experience. And so like cards like Dockside Extortionist, which you mentioned here, continue to be grossly game ruining card at every level, and it's silly. But there's not an alternative. He doesn't want a laundry list of banned cards. I disagree with that. I think we can have a laundry list. I'm going to take 1 second here. And so with the laundry list, there's only like 40 cards banned. I covered that in another video. And so we could ban like 50 more cards. It'd be fine. Like, what's the difference, right? Like, you just look at the list and say, oh, these cards are banned. Like, this card's obviously broken. Ristic Study, I want banned. Sidebar, that video only had like 50% likes, which is really funny. I mean, it makes sense because people spend money on it. They want to, play their card they spent money on. But there's certain cards that are just not healthy for a casual format. Oh, my voice is starting to go here. So yeah, I'm gonna start to wrap it up here. The Golgari guy on Twitter. This person posts a lot on Twitter. Some thoughts on the Commander ban list. The ban list is currently in some weird middle ground. Several cards on it that are relics of the past and will be totally fine if unbanned. And several should be banned. So Dockside seems to be the number one card people want banned. I still think Ristic Study is a much more insidious card, but let's just go with it. So there's cards that are signpost bans, and so that does not really work totally, because you have I should really just have the ban list pulled up. You have Chaos Orb, we'll say, because I pulled that one up earlier. But you have these cards that are signpost bans like Biorhythm. Let's do this actually. Well, no, I'm not going to pull that up right now. Let's just let's just wrap things up. So I was going to pull up the ban list, but I should have had it pulled up earlier. But the signpost bans, I feel, and Golgari guy feels in general, that they are just not effective, and we need a more extensive ban list. Just several, and you could unban a few cards and then add a bunch more. Ristic Study, Dockside, Cradle, a couple other cards like that, and so. It's just like, it's just hard to explain to the Rules Committee and the CAG that players can't control themselves. If Dockside's legal, people are going to play it, There's a monetary element. If they spent money on it, fine. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. this whole Shiv'em thread. If anything you take from this video, it's that follow Shiv'em on Twitter. He goes off sometimes. it's really entertaining. This is a diatribe. He went on an epic Twitter rant here. And so yeah, like what do you guys think here? So do we think that unsets can be unbanned in Commander? Are they too casual? Is that a thing? Is there too much weird rules, corner case scenarios? Are the dexterity cards a problem? Are acorns, attractions a problem? Stickers a problem? Are the rules issues going to be like? Are they going to destroy the idea of this, or is it totally fine with just like a few exceptions? Maybe Spike could be banned or something. Like what do you guys think?